This week's Parsha is Parsha Tetzaveh, and continuing with the theme of last week's Parsha, Parsha Truma, we also have a tremendous amount of detail concerning the service or the preparation for the service in the Mishkan. So last week's Parsha dealt with more the dimensions of the actual structure itself. This week's Parsha deals with the clothing that the Kohanim and the Kohen Gadol wore 8 garments, the regular Kohen wore 4. And there is life messages from all of them. We've discussed some of them in the past. But just again, I think the detail and of both Parshas needs to be addressed. Why is it so important that we have to have so much specification involving what they're wearing? And you give a nice set of clothes and put them on. We have to tell them exactly how it was made and what the dimensions are, and it's. I think it perhaps there's an insight here. But I want to talk about something today that I believe can give us a whole new dimension in terms of educating our children, and especially for those of us that are in some administrative type position that involve managing people and how to get the most out of people that we are engaged and involved with. Chapter 28, verse 41, after describing in detail all of the garments that they have to wear, then there's the instruction, V'hilbashta osam es Aaron achicha. Moshe is being told, you will clothe Aaron your brother, Vezbanav ito, umashachta osam, you will anoint them. There was a certain special oil that there was. The word Mashiach, used all the time, it really comes from the word anointed one. There was a certain oil that they put on kings, and that a person is going to be the king gets this oil that's put on him. That's the word Mashiach comes from the anointed. Mashachta osam, umilesa es yadam. Very interesting term. And you will fill their hands. Umilesa es yadam. V'kidashta osam, and you will sanctify them, v'chihanuli, and then they will serve me. So what does it mean you will fill their hands? So I'm going to read a Rashi for you here. Rashi again lived in the 11th century. It's the greatest of the commentaries on Chumash. So Rashi says, what does it mean, umilesa es yodam, and you will fill their hands? Let's see where the Rashi is put down. Here we go. Kol milu yadayim, whenever you see the expression of filling hands, it's lashon chinuch. It is an expression of inaugurating or dedicating. Right? Very interesting word, because we use the word chinuch for educating. But in the Torah, it uses the word Chanukat Habayis. We use the holiday of Chanukah. It's a lotion of rededicating or inaugurating. So he says, whenever you see the idea of filling hands, milu yadayim, it is an expression of inauguration. Right? Keshehu nichnas ledavar liot muchzag bo mioso yom v'halahu. And what does inaugurating mean? Means you are seizing something, you're taking possession of something, you're taking ownership or control of something, that this is the way it should be done from now moving on. Right? So Rashi's defined for us what dedication, right? Or the idea of inaugurating something is you're getting it ready for its use for the future. Ubelashon Laz, and he says that the Laz is Lashon Avodah Zarah, but that's the expression means that in his time, the language or the customs of the French, where Rashi lived in France, Shememanim Adam al Pkidas Davar, when they appoint someone for a certain appointment, Nosena Shalit Biyado Beis Yad Shel Or, the person in charge puts a leather glove in the hand of the person that is being appointed. Shekorin, the word gauntlet. He puts the word gauntlet. That's called, do you ever get an expression throwing down the gauntlet? Right? The idea, it's a glove. It's a leather glove. So they put this glove in the person's hand. They fill his hand. They put on the glove, or they put the glove in his hand. Val yadohu machziko bedavar. And through him holding on to that is the way he is being invested with this position or this task that he's being given. Okay. Vehu milu yadayim, and that's the filling of the hands. So Rashi's got this whole historical description over here, by the way, which is in the 10th century, 11th century, about what it means filling the hands for the Kohanim. You have to fill them. He says, just had this custom, and they put a glove in their hand, they held. So the Ramban says, I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, who cares what they did in 10th century France? How does that explain the pasuk? What's Rashi trying to say over here? Rashi's giving a custom that used to be in his days. Somehow that's supposed to be the insight as to what it means. So to say the idea that somehow filling the hands is the concept of inaugurating, right? But then Rashi is backing it up with a modern day custom of his day that they used to fill the hands. A person who was being tasked with a certain duty or appointment would be given a glove to hold on to fill or to hold his hand, and that's filling of the hands. So Ramban says, well, who cares about the modern day custom? How does that give me any insight into what's going on in the pasuk? So we have to understand, Rashi obviously feels it is giving the insight. What is the insight of that custom of putting the glove in the hands of the person or filling his hand with a leather glove that he can hold on to? I think that needs to be explained. I think also the overriding thing is that it's not by chance that the idea of inauguration, which is called chinuch, is also the expression that we use for educating children. Right? So what's the idea, the connection between inaugurating, the inauguration of a building, of a person being appointed for a position, and the idea of educating a child? Parsha Tetzaveh holds a unique status in that from the beginning of Shmos, when Moshe Rabbeinu is introduced, until the end of Devarim, right, 30-some parshios, Moshe Rabbeinu's name appears in every single parsha. There's one parsha that Moshe Rabbeinu's name does not appear. Parsha Tetzaveh. So the question is, why? So there are some that explain that what is happening in the parsha of Tetzaveh, there is the appointment of the Kohen Gadol, right, who is Aaron's older brother. Who is Moshe's older brother. Rashi tells us in Parsha Shmos that when Hashem came to Moshe when he was in Midian, living with Yisro, he said, I want you to lead the charge of getting the Jews out of Egypt. Moshe said, no, I can't do it. Shlach b'yad tishlach. Send somebody else. Don't send me. And there was his refusal got to a point where HaKadosh Baruch Hu got angry whatever that means, God getting angry, but it says he got angry and said, fine, your brother Aaron will come, he will be your spokesperson. And Rashi says there, at that point, Moshe Rabbeinu lost the kahuna. That being the Kohen Gadol, could have come from Moshe. But because his refusal was so vehement, and God gave it over to Aaron, and somehow, when Aaron now is being appointed as the Kohen Gadol, Moshe's name is missing from the Parsha as the punishment. That's the punishment. It means it could have been you, it's Aaron, and therefore Moshe's name's not in there. That's then exactly, what's the punishment? It's, there has to be a message more than Moshe's being punished. What does that mean? If it is a punishment at all, then just obviously making Aaron the Kohen Gadol is enough. Concealing Moshe's name, I think, has to have a little bit of a deeper understanding why his name is being concealed in this week's Parsha. Let's see if we can figure that out. One last question that hopefully we can address. We've dealt with this in different ways in the past. We use one aspect, a question that from my Rashiva. There was a boy who was 13 years old that was imbued, it says God had imbued him with tremendous knowledge and wisdom, Chachma, Bina, Das, and he was the architect of the Mishkan. He was the architect of the building of the Mishkan. What was his name? Betzalel. Betzalel was 13 years old. He was the architect. He was the brains behind building and the Mishkan, the vessels. Unbelievable. How did such a young man get such a tremendous blessing that God would imbue him with the ability to build a Mishkan? So the Medrash, and Rashi brings it down, says it was a reward. Because who was his grandfather? It's Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur. Who was Chur? We're going to learn in coming up Parshios, is that Chur was the one that stood up to the Jewish people when they wanted to build the golden calf. And what happened to him? They killed him. In fact, Aaron, who went along and said fine, because he was trying to delay and stall them, said Moshe would come back when they'd gone. Moshe had gone up to get the Torah, to get the Luchos, and he left Aaron and Chur and the Skenim in charge. He saw what happened to Chur. He said, I will have to figure out a different way how to stall them because to oppose, then I'll be next on the chopping block. So that's why he said, let's throw it into the fire, and not for now. But the point is, the one that did stand up was this grandfather Betzalel. So Hashem said that because the grandfather Chur showed such mesirus nefesh, such dedication, the reward is going to be that his grandson Betzalel is going to be the architect of the Mishkan. That's the Medrash brings down. So I heard my Rashiva asked an interesting question. He says that, why did it have to skip a generation? Why not have Uri, Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur, instead of waiting for Chur, the grandson, let him be the architect. Let Uri, let the father be the architect. Right? Chur was killed, his son gets rewarded for the dedication of the father, the mesirus nefesh, he gave up his life. Why is the grandson? That was a question I should have asked. We'll circle back to the answer in a moment. So let's just recap. all this detail about the garments and the service and how the Mishkan was built just seems to be over the top. Just a tremendous amount of detail that could very easily have been part of Torah Shebaal Peh, the oral Torah. Right? Torah is making a point of stressing, of putting all that detail in here, number one. Number two, the inauguration and dedication of the beginning of the service of the Kohanim is called Milu Yadayim, filling of their hands. Rashi says filling of the hands is the expression the Torah uses for chinuch, for dedicating, for inaugurating. And he brings a custom of his time that was prevalent, that they used to put a glove in and ask the person to hold on to the glove when he was tasked with an appointment. So Ramban says, who cares what they did in his time? How does that have any bearing on what the definition of the word is here in the Torah? So we see if we can answer that. The idea of dedication, chinuch, being the same word. What does it teach us about educating our students, our children? And the last question we had was, why does Betzalel be the one who gets rewarded for what his grandfather did and skip a generation? Just make it the son. So I think the message, what we need to draw from what's here, Hashem is setting up the ideal situation to empower Aaron HaKohen and his children to be the ones doing the service in the Beis HaMikdash. So this is the appointment, this is where that transferal of power, Rashi said before, it should have been Moshe, it's given over now, but we're trying to set it up right. How do we ensure that empowerment is going to be done correctly? When a person is nervous or not confident, right, he actually can shake, he gets nervous. When do you see the person's nervous? What is shaking? Right? Their hands. You see their hands shaking. Actually, you see seasoned speakers, when they speak for public, they always hold on to something. They'll hold on to a podium, they'll hold on to... You never want to show someone you're nervous. So the way you don't show someone you're nervous, you hold on to something, and that, so that it has a calming effect. This idea of why, when you're inaugurating someone, you're filling their hands, is because you're empowering them, you're showing them, I have confidence in you that you're going to be capable to do what I'm instructing, what I'm tasking you with. I am filling your hands. Don't be nervous. We are giving you that empowerment because we know you're able to do it. Rashi is showing an example of his time. Obviously, what does it have to do? Because the psychology never changed. In the 10th century, it was the same as, thousands of years before. That idea that when you want to empower someone, you're giving them something to hold on to, you're giving them something to hold that shows that I'm investing in you, my trust and confidence that you're going to be successful. That's what Rashi is giving that as an example. So Ramban says, who cares what they did in 10? No, that's the psychology behind why chinuch is called milu yadayim, filling of the hands. Which I think, let's take it to the next step then. If that's the way you task someone with a position and inaugurate or dedicate something, and the word chinuch is also in terms of educating our children. Right? And look at the beautiful way Rashi describes what it means to inaugurate or dedicate, because that really is what education is all about. Right? What does Rashi say? Let's read it again. Keshu nichnas ledavar lios muchzak bo mi'oso yom v'hala. Dedication or inaugurating something means that you're entering to do this from today and on. That's what education is too. Education is not, I'm just giving you information right now, spit it back, then you go to the next grade. The whole idea of what education needs to be is that I am empowering you, I'm giving you tools that you're going to be able to use for the rest of your life. One of the first things I did when we reviewed the curriculum, when we came here to Emek, is I want to list from every single teacher, and obviously the principal, what will the child be able to do at the end of this year? If you cannot answer that question, then you don't belong educating the child. The whole purpose of educating is not just to get through the curriculum, is empowering the child that moving forward now, there's going to be, whether it's knowledge-based, skills, abilities, that they're going to be able to do in the future. That's the whole notion of what education is all about. Whether it's at home, whether it's values, it's things that need to be done, not for now. They need to be done because this is what you want the child to continue doing moving forward. And especially when it comes to education in the 21st century, think about it. We have no way of knowing by the time kids hit college or even the workforce, what jobs are going to even look like. We're educating children for jobs that don't even exist. Can you tell me what in 10 years or 20 years' time a doctor's going to look like? What a lawyer's going to look like? The technology is speeding up so quickly. Everything is going so fast. There's such a rapid development. We have no way of knowing what we're even educating our children for positions that they don't even exist. The college, they're actually revamping, even in education today. They're starting now in many colleges. There used to be, you could take, there was special education. That was a degree. And then you have elementary education, and you have high school education. There's different levels and different types of education. They're now realizing they cannot have special education as a standalone degree. They're starting to now, in many schools, special education is part of the regular degree. A teacher today standing in a classroom with the differentiation that's required has to be well-versed in special education to be able to teach a regular class. That's just because of the development of the way things are moving along. I'm just giving one example how even the degrees are going to be changing in terms of and now we have to educate them. So clearly the only thing you can focus on, there's certain things that you know are for sure going to be needed today and in 20 years and in 30 years and in 100 years. They'll never change. Kids need to be able to think critically. Critical thinking, no matter what the job is like, a kid's going to have to be able to think critically. Collaborative work, working together, collaboration. So therefore, the whole sense of what education, I remember as a kid, the times tables on the board and having to memorize, Google, what's 9 times 3? This winter break, we were on vacation. I met somebody, an uncle of mine, that's involving in an investment in a company that it's like a step up. The Google glasses is this alternative reality. They have now that you can visit places with these glasses on, or whatever. They're now developing glasses in Israel that has face recognition. You walking in the street and it shows you, and you start getting a bio in the glass who that person is. They said it's going to even take away all computers. You're not going to have to look on your phone anymore. You're going to be able to ask, what's the phone number? What's coming through your glass that you're looking at? Everything is changing. Certain things, values don't change. Certain requirements that you want a human being to be able to do or behave or act So that's what education has to be. What we have to be educating our children is not just what's for today. That's chinuch. We have to, mikan v'hala, from now and on. If what you're giving them today is going to be obsolete or not needed for tomorrow, then you have to question what's the importance of giving it today. Across the board. It's a whole different way of viewing education, but Chazal understood that was education. That always was the way of education. So how can we be successful in educating our children? That's the idea of empowerment. Empowering, building confidence. Someone will not be successful unless you have a way of empowering them and showing them, I know you can do it. You have to fill their hands. You have to fill their hands, meaning they have to believe that you believe in them, that they can be successful. And this is in any administrative management, not just parents, not just teachers. You cannot expect the person who is going to be working for you or the child that you're educating that they're going to be successful if they don't feel from the get-go that you know they can be successful. It's a tremendous message. You have to fill their hands. You have to give them the confidence. You can go ahead and do it. Set it up right from the get-go that they feel confident that they can be successful. I think, by the way, it dawned on me that what's the idea of a handshake? Where does it come from? Huh? Or the Eskimos rub noses or something? I don't know. Like, why don't we rub noses? Like a handshake. A handshake is, I'm filling your hand, you're filling my hand. We have confidence in each other. Right? In the diamond market, when the deal's done, right? What is it? Shalom Avracha. That's the handshake. You don't need a document. I'm confident in you. You're confident in me. I'm filling your hand. That's what it is. That's it. That's the handshake. That's what the idea is. I'll tell you what my Rosh Yeshiva answered why he believes that Betzalel was given this position. And it was in the merit of the grandfather, not the merit of the father. Very interesting insight. He says nobody wants to go through life with the sense that he is who he is only because of his father. It's debilitating. In order for me to have confidence of who I am, it can't just be, that's because of your father. Grandfather we can deal with. Father, it's very hard. It's a tremendous insight, by the way. There has to be a sense of building independence. For success, there has to be building confidence. Confidence doesn't come unless there's also a sense of independence that comes along with it. I know that you can stand on your own. You're not going to need me. If a kid goes through life and everything he does, I remember in Columbus, there was a fellow there. The fellow was a very, very wealthy, one of the wealthiest people today in the Jewish world. But his father was a very, very wealthy guy too. And one of these old timers got into an argument with him and said to him, "You're just lucky your father came first." That's the guy told him. I remember that resonated. Can you imagine what somebody feels like? Somebody tells you, you're only who you are. Your father came first. But that's empowering. Empowerment means, I know you can stand on your own. Creating that sense you can stand on your own. And I think perhaps that's also why you want to show somebody that you have trust in what they can do and they can stand on their own. You also have to explain to them the importance of what it is that they're going to be doing. Why is this so important? That's the detail. The Kohanim are now being empowered to become Kohanim Beis HaMikdash. The Torah is taking 4 parshas to show every detail of the Mishkan, every detail of their garments. That's tremendously empowering. The Torah is willing to go out of its way to put so much detail in for the job that I'm about to do. Must be an important job. We're empowering them by creating all that detail, going through how important it is. Look how much, so it's setting it up. And the last piece, by the way, I think that's why Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not here. You want Aaron to be successful, and you want his children to be successful. Let's leave one parsha without his name in it. Otherwise, you got the shadow of Moshe Rabbeinu on top of you the whole time. His name's not there. So this Torah is giving us an insight here. The inauguration of Aaron and his children, filling their hands, the way the Torah says you have to fill their hands. Show them you have confidence in them. Show them empowering in them, showing the importance of what they're supposed to do. We believe they can be independent, they can stand alone. That's a message for all of us in terms of raising our own children successfully and raising our students successfully.